When Chicago Fire first hit screens in 2012, few could have predicted just how massive the series would become. Created by Michael Brandt and Derek Haas, and backed by TV powerhouse Dick Wolf, the show ignited a full-blown franchise with heart-pounding action, emotional storytelling, and unforgettable characters. Now, over a decade and 14 seasons later, the stars of Firehouse 51 have evolved, on-screen and off. Some have stayed since day one, becoming TV icons, while others have come and gone, leaving lasting impressions. So how have the cast members changed over the years? Let's take a deep dive into the transformations, careers, and personal journeys of the Chicago Fire stars, then and now. Fire engine Jesse Spencer, Matthew Casey, from leading man to bittersweet exit. When audiences first met Captain Matthew Casey, played by Jesse Spencer, he was the moral backbone of Firehouse 51. Known for his calm leadership and emotional depth, Casey quickly became a fan favorite. Then, before Chicago Fire, Spencer was already recognizable from House, where he played Drive. Robert Chase. On Chicago Fire, he brought a quiet intensity and steady presence that anchored the show's early seasons. Now, after nearly a decade, Spencer stepped away in season 10, leaving fans heartbroken. His exit wasn't dramatic, it was emotional, focusing on Casey choosing a new life path. Since then, Spencer has appeared in guest roles and focused more on personal projects. Transformation. From clean-cut firefighter to a more mature, reflective figure, Spencer's evolution mirrored Casey's journey, growing from a driven lieutenant into a seasoned leader who ultimately chose family over duty. Fire Taylor Kinney, Kelly Severai, the heartthrob who stayed. If Casey was the soul, Kelly Severai was the fire. Played by Taylor Kinney, Severai's rebellious charm and vulnerability made him one of the most compelling characters. Then, Kinney entered the show as the classic bad boy firefighter, confident, reckless, and emotionally guarded. Now, 14 seasons later, Severai has matured into a dependable leader and husband. His relationship with Stella Kidd became one of the show's strongest storylines. Off-screen, Kinney has become a household name and continues to be one of the last original cast members still central to the series. Transformation. From playboy to protector, Kinney's physical look hasn't changed drastically, but his character depth has expanded immensely. Ambulance Monica Raymond, Gabriella Dawson, a powerful exit. Played by Monica Raymond, Gabriella Dawson was one of the most dynamic and emotionally layered characters. Then, Dawson started as a paramedic with fierce determination and a compassionate heart. Her chemistry with Casey was a defining aspect of early seasons. Now, Raymond left in season 6 to explore new opportunities, later starring in Hightown. Transformation. Raymond's portrayal evolved from energetic rookie to emotionally complex leader. Her departure marked one of the show's biggest turning points. Fire extinguisher Lauren German, Leslie Shea, the loss that changed everything. Portrayed by Lauren German, Leslie Shea was beloved for her humor, loyalty, and heart. Then, Shea was part of the original squad and one of the most relatable characters, bringing levity to intense situations. Now, her shocking death in season 3 remains one of the most emotional moments in the show's history. German later gained massive fame starring in Lucifer. Transformation. Though her time on the show was brief, Shea's impact continues to ripple through the series. Fire engine Eamon Walker, Wallace Bowden, the unshakable leader. Eamon Walker brought gravitas to Chief Wallace Bowden. Then, Bowden was already a commanding presence, firm but fair, deeply respected by his crew. Now, across 14 seasons, Bowden has remained the emotional and moral anchor of Firehouse 51. Transformation. Walker's portrayal has grown more nuanced, showing vulnerability alongside strength, making Bowden one of the most consistent characters. Ambulance Kara Kilmer, Sylvie Brett, from rookie to emotional core. Played by Kara Kilmer, Sylvie Brett stepped into big shoes after Shea's departure. Then, introduced as a small-town paramedic, Brett was initially uncertain and eager to prove herself. Now, she has become one of the show's emotional pillars, navigating relationships, trauma, and personal growth. Transformation. Kilmer's evolution is one of the most noticeable, both in confidence and emotional depth. Wrench David Eigenberg, Christopher Herman, the fan-favorite veteran. David Eigenberg's Herman is the heart and humor of the Firehouse. Then, a seasoned firefighter juggling family life and work, Herman brought relatability and warmth. Now, still going strong, Herman has taken on leadership roles in deeper storylines involving family and legacy. Transformation. While his appearance hasn't changed drastically, his character has gained more emotional complexity. Fire Joe Manoso, Joe Cruz, the loyal underdog. Joe Manoso plays Joe Cruz, one of the most lovable characters. Then, Cruz started as a somewhat insecure firefighter trying to find his place. Now, he's grown into a confident, dependable member of the team and a family man. Transformation. Cruz's journey is one of the most satisfying, showing steady growth and resilience. Fire Engine Miranda Ray Mayo, Stella Kid, the modern icon. Miranda Ray Mayo joined later but quickly became central. Then, Kid entered as a tough, ambitious firefighter determined to rise through the ranks. Now, she's a lieutenant, a leader, and one half of a power couple with Severai. Transformation. Mayo's character has evolved into one of the strongest female leads in the franchise. Ambulance Annie Alonza, Emily Foster, a short but memorable run. Annie Alonza brought a fresh dynamic as Emily Foster. Then, a former medical student turned paramedic, Foster added intelligence and mystery. Now, she exited after a few seasons but left a lasting impression. Fire new faces and changing dynamics. Over 14 seasons, Chicago Fire has welcomed numerous new characters, reflecting the ever-changing nature of the Firehouse. While some departures were heartbreaking, they allowed new stories to flourish. The evolution of the cast mirrors real life. People move on, careers shift, and relationships change. Yet the core spirit of Firehouse 51 remains intact. Glowing star then versus now. More than just looks. What makes Chicago Fire special isn't just how the cast looks different, it's how they've grown. Characters have faced trauma, loss, love, and triumph. Actors have expanded their careers beyond the show. The series itself has matured, tackling deeper themes. From fresh-faced rookies to seasoned veterans, the transformation is both physical and emotional. Fire: The Legacy of Chicago Fire. After more than a decade, Chicago Fire isn't just a show, it's a legacy. It launched the entire One Chicago universe and turned its cast into stars. More importantly, it created characters that audiences genuinely care about. Even as the cast continues to evolve, one thing remains constant: the bond of Firehouse 51. Fire Engine final thoughts. Looking back at the cast of Chicago Fire then and now feels like revisiting old friends. Some are still there, others have moved on, but all played a role in shaping the show into what it is today. From Jesse Spencer's emotional goodbye to Taylor Kinney's enduring presence, every journey adds another layer to the story. And with season 14 and beyond, one thing is clear: the fire is still burning. Fire.